I just tried it out, and boy, what a difference that makes. Now it's a lot smoother, and I don't have any lubrication on here even. Of course, you know, with the weight of the table on it, it's not going to be like this, but the whole point was I couldn't do this before. That's nice. Now, I had already mounted this pedestal, and I got a little bit ahead of myself and forgot that there's a whole locking pin and everything that goes on the other end of this shaft to keep this from being able to be unscrewed all the way by accident. So I need to take this off and put that on before I can mount this. Unlike most of the other pins in this drill press that I took out, this one's not tapered. And because the trouble I had driving it out, I kind of mushroomed it a little bit, so I just hit it on the grinder and put a bevel on each end. But it's still not going in that hole freely, so it's definitely a press fit, which makes sense. Pretty much, I guess, once this is up in there, it's supposed to stay kind of captive. But I don't really want to bash it in there. So, there we go. Just kind of pushing it in with these pliers. Not all the way through yet. It's interesting, that's so short. If I put that in much further, it's really not going to do much. I guess I could have the wrong pin, but that's the only pin I can find right now that doesn't have a home, so that's why I figured that was the pin that I took out. Huh. Oh, I wonder if I ground that pin off because I was having trouble getting it out. I don't remember, to be honest. But actually, you know what? If I leave it in like that, hanging out, it's going to do the job it's supposed to do. And we can test that theory. There we go. That's it. It won't go any further than that. Wait a minute though. That went up a lot further than that before. Aha! Yeah, I just picked it up and looked down inside there, and I can see that now it's not clearing the inner sleeve that's in here, so that pin's going to have to definitely go in further than it is now. The question is, how much further? Alright, so the thing is, if I push the pin in further than how far these threads stick out, it really will serve no purpose. So I've got to push it in further than it is now, but not too much. So let's see. Maybe that ain't doing nothing. I have to tap it in. It's flush on this side. Sorry, that camera angle's not too good. That's now just about flush on that side. Just about, not quite. That seems to be doing what it should do. Just don't like how when it gets up there it kind of ends up cockeyed. It's like it's grabbing on only one side, not the other. No sir, I don't like it. Yeah, I just don't like the way this is going back together. Every time I take this rod out, some more of this crud. There's actually a pile of it now over here on the bench. Came out, and that's crud that's in the threads, like I took out of the threads on this rod, the female threads that are in there. The other thing that's bothered me right along about this thing is the fact that through this hole right here I can clearly see threads. So now I'm thinking that by design, I'm thinking this is a telescopic deal here, and I think what's supposed to happen, I wouldn't be surprised at all if what's supposed to happen is when you get to the end of travel of this, that this is supposed to actually start turning and coming up too, so that you get even more lift out of the thing in a short. See, I thought I remembered reading in one of the very few advertisements that I saw for this drill about how it had some sort of a telescopic screw support for the table that negated the need to bore a hole in the floor of your shop. So I'm probably going to end up marring up the paint job I did on this thing, but I think I'm going to actually do something to try and get this out. I think this is supposed to unscrew from this, and I think it's just jammed in there from age. So I'm going to be more aggressive on this. And originally I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but now I just think if I get this out, I'll be able to do a couple things. I'll be able to clean this better. And I'll also be able to maybe learn how this is supposed to work and maybe make it work correctly when it's all together. So the question is, which way does this unscrew? Judging by the fact that the threads appear to be tilted this way, I'm thinking it should unscrew the way you would expect it to unscrew, counterclockwise. So I'm gonna get me a big old honking pipe wrench to get on that thing. I got this one, but I think this is gonna be too small. I'm gonna actually bolt this down to the base for support. Alright, I did say I was gonna get more aggressive, but I'm going to be wary of the fact that these are pretty small bolts right here, so the shear strength of those bolts I have to be concerned with. So I'm going to try and just see if I can get this to turn. There we go. Son of a gun. That's right. Just wish I had done this before I painted it. Oh yeah. That makes a lot more sense. So it almost seems to me like there might be something that keeps that from coming all the way out by design, just like the pin on the other one. And I'm thinking about this hole on the other side there. So let me get this off of here again, get it back over on the bench. Alright guys, I don't quite know what it is yet, but when I align that just right, I can see something in that hole. Well, I just cleaned it up a little more, and it ain't pretty because it's kind of damaged. It's a screw head. But the good news is, it's not tight at all. So I think I can get it out. A little tiny screw. How much you want to bet that comes out now? Ta-da! Now I could properly clean the threads inside there and on here. So basically what happens is that little screw just screws in here, and its only job really is to block this groove so that this can't unscrew. Well, Sunday morning, and it's Father's Day, and I decided I wanted to clean up the threads on this part that I got out the other day. I did try and clean it in the parts washer, and it did clean up some, and I also tried to clean the other part that it threads into, and when I noticed when I went to thread it in, it was still hanging up, and I can actually see some stuff down here in the threads that I didn't get to. So I'm going to use the same trick I used on this other screw, but I needed some way to support this. So at first I tried putting this in the chuck, but then I had no way to support it at the other end because I don't have one of those cone shaped tail pieces for supporting tubing and hollow pipes and stuff like that. So that's something that I'll probably eventually get, maybe for the one of the larger lathes, but not for this one. That being said, so as a stopgap measure, I just kind of put it on here like this, and it's not going to turn concentric, but it's not like I'm trying to do any kind of operation on this other than just clean it up a little bit, so I'm not really that worried about it. Of course, I'm going to have to, I can see that's going to have to go down to the other end, maybe. Ah, there it goes. See all of that stuff that's coming out of there. Reach the end of the thread, so now it won't wander on me like it just did. It's roughest in this area right here, and that's where it was seized into the threads. Because there's actually some rust on this over here. I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper. First I gotta... This was still wet in the grooves from the parts washer, so that stuff is now all over this. And so now... I can feel it down in the grooves here. This feels pretty smooth now, except for this section right here where it was rusted in place. So I'm just going to use this small file and kind of file this out. I should have a handle on here, but I'm going to even slow it back down and just go real easy. And I'm going to make sure I don't have this held so that if it jams, it won't try and stick that point in my... Look at some rough spots in here. For the most part, it feels a lot better than it did. I don't see any chunks of material really falling off now, so I'd say that's just some surface rust that's down in there that may have caused some pitting or scoring at the bottom of the groove. So I think what I'll do now is I'll take this off of here and give it a trial fit. See how it fits in that. Well, it's a lot better than it was. Of course, the female threads in here are much harder for me to clean. I just use a wire brush and parts washer. That's pretty good. I think I might just hit this with the wire wheel and call it done. So once there's oil on here, should be pretty smooth. It's not going to be as nice as that is, but this is a larger diameter screw, so there's more surface area going on there, causing friction. Yes sir, I like it. That'll be just fine. So now we gotta explore how to make this work properly.